Good day. My name is Rhodian-DCI-KKP601 and this is assignment 1 for study unit KKP601. This presentation is an introduction to my DCI research question, the relevant background, context, proposed methods, and other aspects. My research topic is the migration of traditional crafts practice to the digital realm. In 2015, UNESCO released a document titled Cultural Times, the first global map of the cultural and creative industries. Interesting data emerged, such as that the cultural and creative industries, or CCI, makes up 3% of the world GDP, bigger than the automotive industries of Europe, the USA, and Japan combined. The report also highlights, amongst other points, that there is a need for democratization of knowledge and access, as well as digital technologies as drivers of change. On page 86 of the report, Kate Edwards, the Executive Director of the International Gaming Developers Association, is quoted for saying, "Today the focal point of gaming industries is the right of independent developers to create and commercialize new games. In fact, with the democratization of technology, everyone can develop a video game. It can be perceived as a threat for traditional actors, but it also presents an opportunity to boost innovation." End quote. If this is true for the gaming industry, then the crafts industry may benefit from digitizing and democratizing its practices too. While the UNESCO report and other studies often point to the problems and supposed solutions, this study proposes to deliver a practicable option. The 2013 paper, Democratizing Technology, Pleasure, Utility, and Expressiveness in DIY and Maker Practice, argues that democratized technology practices unifies expressiveness while relying on some industrial infrastructures and creating demand for other tools and literacies. As user and consumer culture attunes to these new dynamics, I propose that there may be room for collaborative digital systems beyond the maker movement and gaming culture. My research question is, how would traditional craft practice translate into democratized digital craft practice? The following two sub-questions represent Project 1 and 2 respectively. Question 1. What vocational, technical, social, cultural, and commercial aspects from a practitioner's perspective need to be factored in when migrating traditional craft to a democratized digital crafts model? Question 2. What would a migration framework for traditional crafts to democratized digital crafts look like? In response to question 1 above, Project 1 would develop knowledge from existing theories as well as insights gained from experience, observation, and thinking, collectively expressed as the Digital Hive Craft Theory. This theory would inform the design of the Digital Hive Craft Framework in Project 2. The resulting framework will be tested with an experiment. This practice-led quantitative research relies on an experimentation methodology to explain the concept, demonstrate proof of concept, and for theory validation. The method would be an experiment in the form of an assignment to develop an arts and crafts resource for active retired people. The arts and craft resource should demonstrate dynamics that would be unique to a democratized digital crafts community, showing potential for collaboration, cluster integration, and user participation amongst other characteristics, which may yet become apparent or evolve. This experiment would include schematic analysis supported by a rendered arts and crafts resource product catalog, with some of the products from the catalog being produced for purposes of demonstration. The disruptive impact of digital technology across all industries has been so significant that it introduced a new industrial paradigm. Within the crafts industries, it not only affected design and manufacturing processes, but also professional practice to the extent that traditional vocational roles are being redefined, superseded, or made less relevant, if not redundant, by new ways of thinking about productivity and creativity in the digital industrial paradigm. This is new territory for which simple translation of old values and theories would not be effective, and the impact across the traditional craft sector remains underexplored and underestimated. The UNESCO report shows how significant the cultural and creative industries are, and the craft sector as part of that block has great potential to play a more significant role in the economy in the future. We are not just talking about making keyrings for selling at the local community market. The craft industries represent much of the luxury goods market, including jewelry and leathered goods, but in many ways also connect with community services and in almost every sphere of society. If you can touch it, it's possible that a craftsperson was involved in making that possible. Digitizing and democratizing of crafts is not as simple as turning on the lights or making technology accessible to people. We are talking about a double-decker paradigm shift, and for traditional craft workers who have had no introduction to either of these concepts, it would be a challenge to fully comprehend, let alone negotiate. For this reason, it is important to be clear about where we stand on as many of the variables as possible, so that there can be at least some stable definition to aspects of this new paradigm. In her paper titled Rethinking Design Thinking, published in 2011, Lucy Kimball cautions against oversimplification of categories, but also states that it can promote understanding of different approaches and their implications. She outlines 3 different ways of describing design thinking, namely as a cognitive style, as a general theory of design, and as an organizational resource. All 3 of her categories of design thinking applies to different elements of my research. Then there is the issue of roles or vocational distinction. While I understand and support some of the arguments distinguishing between the roles of designers, artists, and craftspeople in the traditional realm, the digital paradigm dictates without sentiment. In the context of the digital paradigm, the digital medium takes precedence over creative activity. And for that reason, I decided to treat design, craft, and art as processes rather than vocational distinctions. Applied to the democratized digital creative framework, I expect that this approach would create synergy between those distinctions with a unifying amplification effect. Nevertheless, it is necessary to remain aware of these distinctions as they remain relevant in our design thinking. The paper titled The Scope of Design Knowledge, Integrating the Technically Rational and Human-Centered Dimensions, published in 2011, suggests that the process of design thinking integration serves as a core knowledge-generating activity. Considering the creative input that one could expect from even a small sample of digital hive collaborative effort, then it may be suggested that such a network, when operating at a reasonable velocity of engagement, may generate new knowledge akin to the concept of a perpetual energy device, maintaining its own momentum. The timeline for this research spans 3 years, if all goes according to plan. The first year would consist of designing the research and making it past the DCI confirmation process. The second year would consist of creating a digital hive craft theory, and the third year will be occupied by the design of the democratized digital hive craft framework, accompanied by an experiment. This research project would have no need for human or animal interaction, so ethics approval is not expected to present any problems. There are also no third parties involved, eliminating concerns about copyright. A budget of no more than $5,000 should cover cost of the experiment associated with Project 2. Depending on how the project evolves, this cost may not even be required. This research proposal is a work in progress, and it evolves as more relevant knowledge is being discovered. Ultimately, it is hoped that this research would deliver a practicable framework for digital creatives to take better advantage of digital technology as part of the creative process, but also in their development of a digitally based creative culture and the benefits which such collaboration could make possible. Due to the nature of the proposed framework, it presents a variety of wicked questions with opportunity for more research to be conducted. Thank you for taking the time to watch this introduction to my proposed research.